Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Kevin Blekicki Show. This is episode number 53. Thank you for spending your week with me. Hope you're having a good time. We have a great show for you again this week. We have a lot of meaningful college basketball to talk about. We're going to be talking about the conference tournaments that are happening on the women's side, and the men's regular season is wrapping up as well. And we also have the World Baseball Classic going. It's only been going on for a few days, and it's already iconic. It's already amazing. You have amazing moments. The fans are going crazy. The players are going crazy. Everyone is enjoying this event except for people who don't like having fun. If you're a baseball fan and you don't like the World Baseball Classic, that's your fault. That's your problem. I can't do anything to help you. Maybe I recommend just trying to enjoy your life a little bit more. But we are going to start off by talking about the SEC Women's Basketball Tournament. You know that it's spring for two reasons. One, the sun is shining. There are birds chirping in the background. I opened my window because I wanted to let some fresh air in. So if you hear anything in the background, that's what's going on. The air is fresher, the sun is shining, the birds are chirping, the weather's nice. It's in the mid 70s here in South Carolina. It is amazing weather. Everything is great. And you can also tell that it's spring because SEC head coaches are complaining about the tournament being held in Greenville, South Carolina. This is a topic of discussion that's been going on for the last couple of years. And the way that the tournament works, it's held in Greenville, South Carolina, which is a short drive away from Columbia, South Carolina, where the Gamecocks play their home games. And this has been a topic by Vic Schaefer. He mentioned it. He was complaining about this. Now that Texas is in the SEC, now they're complaining about having to play in the SEC tournament, which is in Greenville. They play in Texas, which is another time zone over. That's not our problem. Your school wanted to come to the SEC to make more money. You thought you were bigger than the Big 12, so you decided to come and play with the big cats in the SEC. And now that you're in the SEC and you're one of the best teams, not just in the SEC, but in the country, now you have to play in the SEC tournament, which is currently held in Greenville, South Carolina, which is a huge home court advantage to one of the best teams in all of women's college basketball, the South Carolina Gamecocks. I'm sorry, I didn't make the rules. That's just how it is. And this is being brought up because Kenny Brooks, the head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats, was complaining about this tournament being in South Carolina and it basically being a home game for us. I do have news for you. Since 2017, all but 2 years, the SEC tournament has been held in Greenville, South Carolina. In 2018 and 2022, it was held at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee, home of the Nashville Predators of the NHL. Outside of that, it's been held in Greenville, South Carolina. So it's been going on for a decade. So argue with your mama. But also, under Dawn Staley has won 9 SEC tournament championships at South Carolina. The only other teams to win are Mississippi State and Kentucky. And so no, in the span that Dawn Staley has been the head coach of South Carolina, only 2 teams have won the SEC tournament outside of South Carolina. That's insane. And so that predates 2017. So they were winning in Jacksonville Veterans Memorial Arena in Jacksonville, Florida. They were winning in Verizon Arena in North Little Rock, Arkansas. So you can spare me with this whole home court advantage. And you know what? If you want to take it back to Nashville, or you want to have it in Austin, which it wouldn't be in the Southeast, but I mean, you could have it if you want in Miami, Atlanta, Charlotte, New Orleans, whatever southern city you want. I promise you, the fams of South Carolina, the strong fan base that we have, we will travel. That's one of the greatest parts about being a South Carolina women's basketball fan is we have such a strong fandom that travels wherever the team goes. They play in Paris, we go. I'm planning on going to the game in Paris next season. Got to get my financials in order for that. But I mean, Paris, I mean, they've played games in the Battle for Atlantis, uh, all across the country in different, in different arenas in March Madness over the years, and we always show up. And we always show up. We always show out. We're always loud, and we're always supporting our team. So the fact that you're out here complaining about the SEC tournament being in Greenville, bro, it could be on Mars, and South Carolina Gamecock fans are going to show up and support our women athletes. So you better pipe down with all that nonsense. But one of the reasons why Kenny Brooks was complaining, they also have to play 3 games in 3 days. They won their first 2 matchups, which led them to a matchup with South Carolina in the quarterfinals. Now, this was a team that played South Carolina earlier this week on Sunday, the last game of the regular season in Kentucky. And Kentucky played really well. They held Joyce Edwards to under 10 points, which is the first time that's happened for her all season. They played a phenomenal game. And it still wasn't enough to beat South Carolina. South Carolina still ended up with the win. So going into this game in the quarterfinals, I was nervous because, Kentucky played South Carolina really well just earlier this week. And even though that they had played 2 games in a row prior, I mean, it's the tournament. Technically, it's a neutral site. Anything can happen. It's March. But the South Carolina women left no doubt in this one, winning 87-64, beating them by 23 points. Joyce Edwards, who was held to a season low against Kentucky on Sunday, was able to get 21 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. Medina Okot, another double-double. Tessa Johnson, 15 points. Tanaya Latson, 11 points. And Raven Johnson, only 7 points, but she was 3 for 5 from the field. So she wasn't shooting the ball a whole lot, but when she was effective. And this is a fantastic South Carolina basketball team. This is 1 through 5, one of the best starting 5s that I've seen rooting for this team for like the last decade or so. This starting 5 is fantastic. They're so good that all of them either made the All SEC first or second team. The 4 of the 5 girls, 4 of the 5 women made it to the second team. Joyce Edwards was the only lady who made it to the first team. Arguably, Raven Johnson should have been on the first team. She was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. How are you the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, but not on the first team All SEC? That makes no sense to me, but whatever. So this team, top to bottom in that starting lineup, is fantastic. There was never an issue about that. But with, Ashlyn Watkins having been out for a few years now, and Chloe Kitts missing this whole season with an injury, they are a little bit short on the bench. And this is a team who historically has been relying on their bench. In a world where stars drive the teams, no disrespect to these women, but you see like Flau'jae Johnson at LSU, Juju Watkins at USC, Paige Beckers when she was at UConn, Caitlin Clark when she was at Iowa. You see these girls and they're superstars and they're tremendous. No disrespect to them at all. They are fantastic women. They are fantastic basketball players. But South Carolina is different. They pride themselves on being a team outside of like people like me and people who follow the sport really closely and are really in tune with this team. A lot of them, 95% of the people, if you see Raven Johnson walking down the street, you're probably not going to recognize her. That's okay. That's fine. She's one of the most accomplished women basketball players in the country right now. So I don't think that she would really mind that. I bet she probably would. I'm sure she would like, all the success with a little bit of privacy too, knowing that, she's not going to be harassed by a lot of people outside of Columbia. However, this bench leaves me a little bit worried. Tornabees, she's all right. She can step back and hit the three. I mean, she's dunked in practice. I've seen it when I went to the game a few weeks ago. So I've seen her play really well at times, but she's not really letting up the stats. She's not gonna get you like a double off the bench or whatever. I really like Maddie McDaniel. She's very energetic. She makes like full Wiley-esque plays. She like twists and turns and contorts her body and tries to make these acrobatic athletic moves. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. A lot of times they at least draw a foul. You got Agot McKeer, who's a freshman, so she's still learning. Miriam Dowda, she had a big three in this game against Kentucky. But I mean, if this team is going to go up against a team like Texas or a team like UConn, I mean, they could handle their own against Texas. They lost the game in Vegas earlier in the Players Era tournament, which wasn't a scheduled game. It was the championship game. It was a result of them moving on, so it didn't count as a conference loss. And then when you go up against UConn, you're going to have all hands on deck. And a girl like Alicia Tornabees, who's 6'7", can dunk and can also hit threes. If they're able to get her kind of going off the bench, that's going to help. The thing with South Carolina is they're only as good as their starting five is going to take them, I think. Because, I mean, for Tornabees to just come off the bench and drop like 10, 12 points would be very uncharacteristic. There might be a scenario in which, like, a few years back in the SEC tournament, there was a huge fight between LSU and South Carolina, and it ended up being Camila Cardozo ended up having to a bunch of players got suspended. Camila Cardozo, one of them. And, since they played like a 16 seed early and it was at home, it didn't matter that Camila Cardozo wasn't there. But you don't want to, get suspended and, leave your team short. So if there was a scenario in which, one of the girls got hurt or suspended and Tornabees would have to play significant minutes and was asked to put up numbers, I don't know if she would be able to do that. But we'll see what happens as a result of them winning this game and LSU taking care of business against Oklahoma. We're going to have a rematch of LSU and South Carolina again in the SEC tournament with a chance to go to the finals on Sunday. And this was always going to happen. Oklahoma was one of the two teams to beat South Carolina this year. Aaliyah Chavez just went absolutely nuclear in overtime in that game. They played a really great game. It was, a road game. So obviously, if they were to play again in the tournament, it would have been a pro South Carolina crowd because it's in Greenville. But LSU put the belt to ass against Oklahoma in that game, which means that Malaysia Fulwiley, Kim Mulkey, and Flau'jae Johnson are going to have another crack at South Carolina. The first time that these two teams played, it was a relatively close game. Joyce Edwards was stifled in that matchup. That's part of the reason that made it so close. Flau'jae Johnson had a chance to win the game. She missed some clutch free throws. And Malaysia Fulwiley, she did play well defensively, struggled offensively against South Carolina. Now, I did make a video about this earlier in the week on my page, and it blew up. It is by far my most viewed and commented video on this channel. I was referencing Malaysia Fulwiley as it being like a revenge game, and a lot of people in the comments were quick to call it not a revenge game because there's no reason for Fulwiley to want revenge against South Carolina because she left and she also won a championship here. She had an undefeated season. So it's not a revenge game. And a lot of people will say it's not even a rivalry because we haven't even lost to LSU since Obama was still president. But I still get nervous. LSU is a great team. They won a championship a few years ago. So they know what they're doing. Kim Mulkey, obviously a very well accomplished head coach. And she's a tremendous basketball coach. I think it's going to be a good game. And I'm always nervous when LSU and South Carolina meet up because I don't want that streak to end. And now that Malaysia Fulwiley left us to go to LSU, I don't want her to beat us ever. First off, I didn't want her to beat us the first time because it's the first time. I didn't want her to get back. And now it's the SEC tournament. I don't want Malaysia Fulwiley to leave South Carolina and win an SEC championship at LSU. I don't want that at all. But I feel like if South Carolina were to lose this game, they would definitely have extra motivation to go even harder in March Madness because you don't want Malaysia Fulwiley and LSU to get their revenge and to have that satisfaction of beating us in the SEC tournament and also beating us in March Madness. So this is a very important game. I will be nervous. I'm not going to be able to see the game live. I'm going to a soccer game, but I will obviously be nervously checking my phone every 5 seconds. And whatever happens, I will be watching the game when I get back, and I will be making a YouTube video on it, whether we win or lose. So hopefully we win, and all this nervousness goes away, and we can prepare for the SEC championship game on Sunday. But you know who's not going to be preparing for the SEC championship game? And that is Vanderbilt. Because Vanderbilt effed around. I'll say it. They fucked around. They found out, and they did not survive Ole Miss. They lost 89-78 in the quarterfinals. This was the number 2 seed in the SEC tournament, mind you. And this was a team that was one of the best teams in the SEC. They had the SEC Player of the Year, the SEC Freshman of the Year, and the SEC Coach of the Year, all to lose and be one and done in the SEC tournament, which is crazy to think about. Michaela Blake's the Player of the Year. She did her thing, 24 points. A little iffy from the field, 8 of 27, not good. And the 3-point was not much better, 5 of 14. As a team, Vandy shot 38% from the field and 27% from 3. So if you want to know why they lost this game, they chucked up a bunch of threes. They missed a lot of them, and they chucked up a bunch of shots and missed them as well. Look, I've never been a big Vanderbilt person. I've never really been that high on them. They played South Carolina in Columbia, got absolutely dog-walked. And I've just never seen them in the upper echelon of the other teams in the SEC. So now that they're knocked out, maybe they can do some regrouping, and we'll see what they do in the tournament, they're going to obviously have, home court advantage in the first 2 rounds of the tournament, but we'll see how far it takes them if they're able to make it past the Sweet 16, Elite 8. We'll see. But if you're not able to, if you get one and done in the SEC tournament, that's not a good sign, and that's not a good omen for things to come in March Madness. But we will be back with more of the Kevin Blekicki Show after these messages. And we are back with more of the Kevin Blekicki Show. And now we will pivot our focus over to baseball in the World Baseball Classic. Of course, Team Japan, Samurai Japan, won in 2023. Of course, that iconic at bat between Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout ending up in a strikeout that Samurai Japan ended up winning. And now we have another World Baseball Classic upon us. And Japan, in their first 2 games, have looked very impressive. They set the record for most runs in an inning in a World Baseball Classic game against Chinese Taipei in their first game. They ended up winning 13-0. 10 of those runs came in the second inning. That was the record. Shohei Ohtani hit a grand slam. And then in the second game, they were down 3-0 to Korea. And it was early on in the game, and Japan tied it on a home run by who else but Shohei Ohtani. And Seiya Suzuki of the Cubs hit 2 home runs, and they ended up winning that game 8-6. So Japan, who is one of the favorites to win the tournament, is off to a great start at 2-0. Then you have Team USA, and they came out swinging against Team Brazil. They win 15-5. Aaron Judge hit a home run. He also grounded into a double play with the bases loaded and 1 out against a 17-year-old. You're also having Manny Ramirez's son out there. He hit 2 home runs in that game. It was a very long game, and they do have mercy rules in the World Baseball Classic. That's why the first game between Japan and Chinese Taipei only went 7 innings. It's because they had a 10-run lead. But Team USA didn't have that because they got their 10-run lead in the 9th. So you have to finish that inning. So unfortunately, we weren't able to get a shortened game because of it. It just ended up being a very long game. A lot of walks by Team USA, well over 200 pitches that they faced. So they're very disciplined. And, some of their pitchers, Mason Miller had some issues. But you got to remember that it's also still spring training for a lot of these guys. So you're not going to expect a lot from these starting pitchers. And one of the pitchers that we do have to talk about is Tarek Skubal. He made news, this last week or so, because he's only going to be pitching against Great Britain in the second game of the World Baseball Classic for Team USA. And with their pitch count being 55 pitches in that first round, he's only going to be pitching 3 or 4 innings, and then he's leaving the team. He's not even going to be sticking around and maybe, throwing on the side like he would normally do, which, I mean, if you're not going to pitch, that does make sense because that way you could still make more starts and face live batters in spring training. But at that point, just what is the point of even having an appearance on the team? Why are you even participating in this event if you're only going to pitch 1 game? Like, we were so excited. We were getting Skeens and Skubal in the same rotation. I'm very excited to see Nolan McLean pitch. As a Mets fan, he was one of the guys that could have been the Rookie of the Year last year. He just happened to be coming up really at the tail end of the season. Didn't really have enough starts to really make that much of an impact, but he's still going to be a rookie this year, so he's still in the running for Rookie of the Year. And I'm just really disappointed in Tarek Skubal because This is a serious event. You're playing for your country, and I know that it's a relatively new thing. It's only been around for 20 years, but it still means a lot to a lot of players and people. And a great example of that is if you just happen to watch any of the games from any Latin America or Asian country, if you watch a baseball game featuring those teams, it's completely different. Junior Caminero hit a game tying home run in the sixth inning of a full play game in the World Baseball Classic, and he was running around the bases. His helmet flew off. You thought that he won the World Series, and it's just a home run in a preliminary round in a preseason exhibition. And it means the world to these guys because they're playing for their country, and there is no greater honor than representing your country. And these guys are so excited to be playing for their home country that when they do hit home runs like that, it's amazing. And I was watching one of the Japan games, and in the crowd, they're chanting Seiya Suzuki's name, and they're going up and down and doing chants and doing dances, and they have drums. And one of the reasons why I love Chinese Taipei so much is that when I've seen games in the last World Baseball Classic that they played in Taiwan, they had drums, they had cheerleaders, they were dancing on the dugouts. It was so much fun, and we don't have any of that in the United States. And people who say that baseball is boring haven't watched international baseball. It is far superior. It's so much more entertaining. They get the crowd into it, and it's just the best. It's simply the best. As a Mets fan, I've seen my fair share of injuries early on in the World Baseball Classic, obviously, especially Edwin Diaz in 2023. That was just the disaster of a season. That was the beginning of the end, really. And Francisco Lindor, although it's not in the regular, even though it didn't happen in the World Baseball Classic, he's missing the World Baseball Classic because of a handmade injury. And he's questionable for opening day. He should be able to go, but time will tell. And this is, I think that the injury is well worth it. I mean, seeing these countries represented and seeing guys who are super young to guys who are super old. There was a guy pitching and it was going to be turning 41 at the end of this month. It's just baseball in its purest form, and it's so exciting to watch. Is Team USA going to win the World Baseball Classic? I don't know. I really don't know. Japan looks amazing. Dominican Republic is stacked as always. I think it's going to come down to those three teams. And maybe if we had Tarek Skubal and he was able to pitch in like a semifinal or a championship game, we might have an edge. We had Michael Wacha take the mound. Now, Michael Wacha is a guy that I remember. He played on the Cardinals. He was traded to the Mets, or I don't know if he was traded or he was signed. One of the two. It's been a while, but he was acquired. Him and like Rick Porcello were acquired by the Mets during the Wilpon eras. That's how long Michael Wacha has been playing baseball. He was around on the Mets when the Wilpons were here. So the fact that I'm seeing Michael Wacha represent our country is kind of crazy. But this team is stacked. They got guys like Judge, Harper, Pete Crow Armstrong, Kyle Schwarber, Alex Bregman. I would have liked to see Cody Bellinger. Would have loved to see Pete Alonso. Paul Goldschmidt is there. If this was like 10 years ago, I might have been more excited. But this team's got a solid club. They have a chance to go really far. They're obviously going to win their pool, and they're gonna probably make it deep into the tournament. Are they gonna win it? I don't know. Are they gonna go and see the president? I don't know. I mean, it would be It would be an even worse look for Team USA, the baseball team winning the World Baseball Classic, seeing the reaction that people had to the men going to the White House and celebrating there. And then after that, the United States bombing Iran and them still wanting to go there, that would be like a level of just like not being in the same realm as the rest of the world. That would be like completely insane. Like they would be so far removed from the everyman at that point in time that it would be absolutely insane to be like that removed from the struggles of everyday people, the people that fill the stands wanting to see you play. It also, I don't know if logistically it would work out because once the World Baseball Classic ends, there's a little bit of a ramp up period, and then the season starts. So, I mean, we're getting right into the regular season at that point. I don't even know if they're going to have time to go to the White House. But if they were to, it would be way worse than the men doing it because the men's hockey team, because that's bad enough. We have the internet. They saw Cash Patel in the locker room celebrating. They saw the joke that Trump made at the expense of the women's team, and they still laughed, and they saw all of that. Then we bomb Iran, and they're like, yeah, we still need to go to that guy, a guy who's in the Epstein files. It would be like insanely stupid for them to even consider that. But I do love Team USA. I want to root for these guys, and I pray to God that they don't go to the White House or they don't even win it, and we don't have to worry about this until 3 or 4 more years in the future. But that does it for this edition of the Kevin Blekicki Show. Thank you for tuning in. If you want to follow me on social media, follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Kevin Blekicki. Thank you so much. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you again next time.